Welcome to a special report from the Human Error News Network. If you're a CISO, I need you to pause whatever you're doing right now. The entire landscape of identity verification just shifted right under our feet. And if you want to stay ahead of the threats that are completely invisible to traditional security, hit subscribe, because today we're targeting the human errors that are leaving our digital pipelines wide open. So let me ask you this. What if your multi-million-dollar biometric security system is completely useless simply because the attackers aren't even looking at the camera? I mean, really think about that. You've probably spent a massive chunk of your security budget deploying state-of-the-art liveness detection and facial recognition tools. You built an absolute fortress. But what if they aren't storming the gates? What if they're bypassing your physical cameras entirely? How on earth does a facial recognition system protect you if the attacker doesn't even have a face? Hold on to that thought, because how they're pulling this off is going to fundamentally change how you view your onboarding process.
And if you're sitting there thinking this is a theoretical problem for 5 years down the road, take a listen to this number, 700%. According to recent intelligence, we've seen a staggering 700% increase in fintech deepfake incidents in just a single year. 700%. This isn't science fiction, it's an invisible threat, it is happening right now, and it's scaling at a pace that traditional security teams are honestly struggling to comprehend.
All right, Section 1, the flaw in digital trust.
You know, as security professionals, our shared human error is just trusting what our eyes see. We naturally assume that a blinking, speaking face means there's a real person on the other end. But this brilliantly illustrates our collective blind spot. We are building physical defenses for digital pipelines. Sure, we've gotten great at stopping physical masks and people holding up screen replays, but we are totally failing to stop the threats hiding entirely in the unseen corners of our software.
Let's reset the stakes for a moment. We aren't just talking about someone opening a fake checking account for a $50 sign-up bonus. In 2024, the Hong Kong police reported a case where a finance worker at a multinational firm was tricked into paying out $25 million. Yep, $25 million. The fraudsters used deepfake technology to literally pose as the company's chief financial officer on a video conference call. And get this, everyone on that call with the worker was an AI recreation. The financial sector is bleeding capital because our systems are treating synthetic digital inputs as physical reality.
Moving right along to Section 2, presentation versus injection attacks.
Okay, let's really dive into this. Drawing directly from the 2026 Biometric Update and Google Intelligence Report, let's break down the core distinction here. First, we have presentation attacks. These are your old-school physical artifacts, like 3D silicon masks, printed photos, or screen replays. Then, on the flip side, we have injection attacks. This is where they bypass the physical camera entirely to insert synthetic media via software, virtual cameras, or API manipulation. Think of it like this. If your system is a VIP nightclub, a presentation attack is a teenager showing up with a fake ID at the front door. An injection attack? That's someone tunneling through the basement and popping up right behind the bar.
And this brings us to the crucial solution, Injection Attack Detection, or IAD. IAD is a dedicated security layer specifically designed to identify these exact software-level bypass attempts. It is the essential tool for catching hijacked virtual cameras, device simulators, and tampered workflows before any of that fraudulent data even reaches your biometric matching system. It doesn't look at the face, it looks at the pipe carrying the face. By the way, if you're finding this explainer helpful for auditing your own pipelines, make sure to check the link in the description for our full IAD threat guide.
Now, what's genuinely wild about this data is the explosive trajectory we are facing. Just think about this growth. The report projects that annual injection attacks will skyrocket from 122 million in 2026 to over 300 million by 2028. Generative AI has lowered the barrier to entry so drastically that spinning up highly realistic deepfakes is practically free and instant. That means injection attacks have moved from these theoretical nation-state level threats to commoditized, everyday fraud vectors.
Which brings us to Section 3, securing the capture pipeline.
To secure that origin point, we really have to look at the weapons being used. Like we just established, attackers are using device emulators and virtual cameras to literally parachute right into the authentication workflow. An emulator is basically software that perfectly imitates a physical smartphone or tablet. The attacker builds this virtual copy of a device, hijacks the camera feed at the operating system level, and injects a flawless AI-generated deepfake video. And the crazy part, your standard onboarding app has absolutely no idea it's talking to a ghost in the machine.
So, to stop this, IAD deploys a very specific technical arsenal. Think of it as a polygraph test for your hardware. First up, camera anti-tampering mechanisms verify that the feed is actually originating from a legit physical hardware sensor. Second, session metadata analysis looks for weird anomalies in resolutions, frame rates, and timing that might give away a virtual source. Third, API hooking mitigation checks if your app's code is being manipulated in real time. And fourth, mobile device emulator detection sniffs out the digital footprints of software trying to mimic physical hardware.
Here is the absolute key difference, and it's a real light bulb moment when it clicks. Standard liveness and deepfake detection analyze the content for humanness, right? They look at the pixels, the lighting, the lip movement. But IAD? IAD monitors the container. It checks the integrity of the camera feed, the system signal, and the data provenance. Listen, you can have literally the best deepfake detector in the world. But if an attacker injects a perfectly clean, stolen video of a real person, your deepfake detector is going to pass it every single time. IAD is what catches the injection.
So when you look at how this fits into the broader verification workflow, you can clearly see IAD is not a replacement for your current security stack. It's the missing foundational layer. It absolutely has to work right alongside your traditional identity verification, your document checks, and your presentation liveness to form one unified trust stack. You authenticate the document, you authenticate the physical presence, and with IAD, you authenticate the digital transmission pipeline itself.
All right, Section 4, Protecting Financial Onboarding.
If you're managing risk in the financial sector, you are squarely in the crosshairs. Listen to this projection from the Deloitte Center for Financial Services. AI-enabled fraud losses are projected to reach $40 billion in the United States alone by 2027. We're rapidly moving toward a world where remote, app-based onboarding is just the absolute norm, and at the exact same time, Gen AI is making synthetic identity creation incredibly trivial. The convergence of these two trends? It's a $40 billion time bomb.
Let me give you a terrifying real-world example detailed in our sources. A top U.S. bank was targeted by a massive AI-driven injection attack during their digital account onboarding. The fraudsters launched over 600 coordinated attempts. But here's the absolute kicker. All 600 attempts originated from a single simulated device. It was an emulator imitating a Google Pixel 4a, known as a sunfish. They just kept submitting varied documents and deepfake selfies, completely evading the bank's standard controls. Why? Because the bank was looking for fake faces, not a fake phone.
Which leads us to Section 5, your IAD vendor checklist.
This brings us directly to you, and what you literally need to do the moment this explainer wraps up. You need to ask your partners some hard questions. Here is your tactical roadmap for auditing your vendors right now. Number 1, can they explicitly detect virtual cameras and emulators? 2, do they have dedicated stream integrity checks to spot frame inconsistencies or mismatching device metadata? 3, do they provide tools for API hooking mitigation to protect your app's code at runtime? And crucially, do they have independent certifications proving their performance against software-based injection attacks, not just physical masks? Honestly, grab a screenshot of this list. You need to demand these capabilities.
And finally, as you're evaluating all this advanced threat coverage, you have to understand the commercial model. IAD is very often charged on a per-transaction basis. So you need to make absolutely sure your budget scales sustainably with your onboarding volumes. Ask them, is there a separate fee for IAD checks, or is it natively bundled into their presentation attack solutions? Because if you are scaling to millions of verifications, your infrastructure costs need to be just as resilient as your security posture.
Which leaves us with arguably the most unsettling question of all to sign off with here at the Human Error News Network. As you process thousands of digital onboarding sessions today, if the attacker's physical camera isn't even turned on, who or what is your system actually looking at?